Today on the chat, we talk Buffy the Vampire Slayer Seasons 1 to 3 highlights. That's coming up right now. Don't go anywhere. Welcome to the chat with Jay and Kay. I'm Jay O'Reilly, and as always, my gorgeous co-host is the lovely Miss Kay. Hey, Miss Kay. Okay, let's get straight into it. Buffy the Vampire Slayer Season 1 to 3 highlights. So we'll start with Season 1 of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So Season 1 was obviously the sequel to Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the movie, which came out in 1992. And the first season of Buffy came out in 1997. So there was quite a few year break between the movie and the TV series. But nevertheless, the movie did lay the initial groundwork for the Buffy the Vampire Slayer universe. Yep. We won't talk too much about the movie. We're not reviewing the movie, but it wasn't exactly.
It wasn't the best, yeah.
No, it wasn't fantastic. We'll just say that.
Need perspectives on 20th century.
I know what you're after.
That's not what I'm looking for.
You don't have to have watched the movie to understand what's going on in Season 1. It's a completely self-contained universe.
You're probably better off not watching the movie.
Yeah, I agree. So Season 1 laid the groundwork for all the, for the main cast. I feel the original series, the first season, had a bit more of a PG rating over a lot of the episodes to start with, but for me it was more about the cast, connecting. Like, for my favourite parts from Season 1 is that first episode where she first meets Willow and Xander. I love that scene of her meeting Willow and sort of sticking up for her, when Cordelia and the others are picking on her.
Hi. Willow, right?
Why? I mean, hi. Did you want me to move?
Why don't we start with, hi, I'm Buffy.
She's such a cute little geeky thing at the start, Willow, but it's so adorable to see Buffy, initially taking her underneath her wing, and same with Xander. So you see that whole motley crew come together in pretty much that first episode.
Yeah, and her relationship, like Willow's relationship, not just with Buffy, but just being in that world, it really brought Willow out of her shell. I really liked that about the whole thing, because she was so timid and really shy and held back, and it was nice to see her really get some power in that as the show goes on.
Is there a problem, ma'am?
Yeah, there's a problem. Why are you following me?
I know what you're thinking. Don't worry. I don't bite.
Yeah, so the other aspects of Season 1 is you're introduced to to Angel and the whole dynamic of him being a vampire with a soul, which you don't initially know at first, but it's sort of introduced to us slowly as Season 1 progresses.
Yeah.
And so that's the other interesting aspect of Season 1, and also the relationship with Buffy and Giles. You see that father figure sort of relationship.
Yeah, and I think it really starts out because the relationship it starts off kind of professional, more professional, and as it goes on, it ends up being, in a way, kind of his undoing of being a watcher. Like, we'll talk about that later, but he isn't meant to be getting so personal with her, and I think it's kind of shown too. Sorry to jump ahead a bit, but when Kendra comes into it, she can't believe the things that Buffy is getting away with, and you start to see that evolve through Season 1. And I do think that's one of the good things about Season 1 is you get to see him and her. The relationship goes from being her watcher to a father figure. He really does care a lot about her, and I really enjoy that part of it. That's one of my favourite parts of Season 1 is him and her. Probably more than anything else.
Yeah, I agree.
So our favourite episodes for Season 1, I'd have to say my first one is Season 1, Episode 10, Nightmares.
Yes, I had that on my list too.
Did you? Okay, cool. I feel like that episode, it really starts showing more of the human reactions to situations. It's really starts to show like backstory and like starts to build up on some character development and some relationship development. And as we've already said with Giles and Buffy, they kind of start the relationship starts changing. There's a scene in it where because they're in this child's thing, like the spell kind of thing that's happening, and he has let them all start to live out their nightmares. And what we see is Giles standing over Buffy's freshly duggen grave, and he admits that is his nightmare. That's his biggest fear.
Yep.
It's mine. I failed in my duty to protect you. I should have been more cautious, taken more time to train you.
But the interesting thing about it, and I'm not saying that, I understand that even a watcher would have that fear, but he takes a very personal approach to it. These girls don't live long. They don't have long lifespans. They aren't meant to. And that's why when one dies, another one comes automatically. Like, it's meant to just kind of keep going. But it's very, like, I don't know, it's very, very confronting and very sad how he kind of says that he feels like he should have trained her more. He wasn't doing his job to protect her because he wants to keep her alive. And I really love that. That to me, that episode is the start of really starting to bring the characters in on a really realistic level. And you start to see some, like, just proper reactions to situations, whereas the other ones were very childish. It doesn't really come across that they are even taking in what's happening to them. And this is, like, really intense stuff. And you don't really see any PTSD or anything like that, and everything starts to change from that episode on. So that's why I really love that episode.
Yeah, I agree. And because we had that on our both had that on our lists, we didn't actually know that we both had that on our list. But I'll just jump in and add some note. Yeah, it was an incredibly scary episode too, and I remember watching it originally. And it was a change of pace to a lot of the other episodes from season 1, where it was really, really frightening, especially the clowns. The clowns just freaked me out.
I haven't had one of these since my 6th birthday.
And that would be my nightmare anyway. But yeah, so it was. I think for me, it was a start of that darker tone to the show that Joss was starting to take it in.
And even the fact that the whole episode is basically based on this child that was abused. So even that, it's a darker theme to what we're used to, kind of thing. I really, that was very interesting to me that they even approached something like that, because it wasn't a demon. It was this child saw him as a monster.
Yeah, and that continues to be a theme of season 1. One of my favourite episodes was episode 6, The Pack, where Xander is possessed along with a few other kids by the hyena's spirit. And it was another confronting episode, especially early on. That was only episode 6. And you see them, devour poor Principal Flutie.
You're about this close to expulsion, people! But I'm willing to talk to the school counselor, and we can discuss options. Get down from there this instant! Oh! Are you insane?
That was one of the most horrific scenes.
And he says that really horrible thing to Willow in it, and pretty much crushes her down, and that's really sad to see. I didn't like that scene, but
I've decided to drop geometry, so I won't be needing your math help anymore, which means I won't have to look at your pasty face again.
It also kind of, I'm pretty sure it actually marks the first episode where they all start taking on, they had the episodes where they do get to kind of like change character a bit. So that was really cool. That was like one of the best ones too. I really like that.
Yeah, I agree.
I think the next episode that we should talk about is Invisible Girl. That is.
I also had that
11.
on my list too.
Of course you do. It's awesome. I think that one of my favourite parts about this episode was that you really start to humanise Cordelia's character, and it takes her from being the typical mean girl and showing that she does have feelings and emotions kind of thing, because it's done a lot, especially in older shows, where they are mean girls that are shown. They're very one-dimensional characters, and you don't get to really explore the other sides of her. And that's where she starts to really enter the group, and you really start to, like, as a audience member, you start to form a connection for her, and I really love that about that episode.
Yeah, it was quite another confronting episode, because again, it was a child and not a demon, and into a really tortured world that she had created for herself. So it was quite confronting on that level. And I mean, and Joss tried in that first season quite a lot to have episodes that sort of linked in with things that really happen in high schools. You know, she felt like she was invisible and no one paid her any attention, so she became invisible.
Absolutely. Who doesn't agree with that? Okay. And how about you?
It was quite a powerful episode. And whenever I think about season 1, that's one of the ones that always sticks out in my mind. Yeah, very defining.
There's a few scenes in it too that I found kind of, especially the scene which I think, Buffy has with Cordelia, where she explains that, because Cordelia says to her, you know, I could be surrounded by people and I feel completely alone. These people don't listen to me.
It's awful to feel that lonely.
So you've read something about the feeling?
Hey, you think I'm never lonely because I'm so cute and popular? I can be surrounded by people and be completely alone. It's not like any of them really know me. I don't even know if they like me half the time.
And sorry to go back onto her again. I do love her character so much, but Buffy really related to that, and I think Buffy had not only dealt with that at her last school, but in a different way, a more deeper way, was still kind of dealing with that disconnection. There's a scene in it where she's actually sitting and watching Willow and Xander walk off in discussion about what they're going to do that night, and I kind of always got the feeling that it was almost like she was still, or felt like she was on the outs. It was still very on in that relationship, and she didn't really have that tight relationship with anybody except for with Giles at that time. So I think at that time he was more her best friend than either of them really were. And not in a bad way. I just think she had to have someone that she could have a strong connection with. Yeah. And Giles sits her down. I'm not sure if it's actually in that episode or an earlier one, but he sits her down and explains to her how he felt when he was a child, when his father pulled him aside and told him that he was going to be a Watcher and that was his destiny. And I think that helped really solidify the relationship between her and him.
Yeah, I agree. But and then that brings us straight into episode 12, which was the final episode for season 1. It was the only season of Buffy to only contain 12 episodes. Every other season had 22. Yep. But so the final was quite a dramatic finale. Straight up, it's the end of the world, and the whole entire pressure of it is solely on Buffy's shoulders. You see in the first opening scenes of that episode where she's by herself battling the demons.
Yeah, and I think one of my back to Cordelia again, you actually see her start to enter the group, start to get into like fights with them and everything. And like she actually saves Jenny and Willow in that, like she pulls her car up and like, get in, let's get out of here. And I really love that. She gets really hardcore and drives the car, and that was really good stuff. But my absolute favourite part about it was her breakdown. That is a real reaction when she finds out that she is destined to die. It wasn't like something she laughed off and got all hardcore girly on it. Like it came from somewhere, you know, very sad inside of her. She really felt that, and she made you feel that for her because something was being taken away at such a young age. And even her reaction to Angel when he tried to touch her and she told him to get away from her. And that is just, it was so realistic and so well done. And Giles, back to his relationship with her, like that's her job. That is her job. And even if and he knew it, her job that night was to die. That was how it was meant to be. And at one point we actually see him preparing to leave and go and fight this demon. Even like she at that point had quit and said she didn't want to be a part of this anymore. But even when she turned around and said to him, this is my job, I'm going to do this, he said no. The only way she could actually get him to stop was to knock him out cold and go and take care of business on her own, because he was going with her because he didn't want her to die. Yeah. Even though that is her job, and that's his job as a watcher, is to let her do these things.
Oh, God. The power.
By the way, I like your dress.
Yeah, it was very touching. Yeah, you saw how close the whole group had become just in that first season. But yeah, and it was almost if that's it. Later on in that episode, she just accepted her fate. You know, she was very heroic and stoic about it. She knew what had to happen, what was going to happen. And and she faced it head on. So she was very powerful. She was absolutely courageous in that final episode.
She's dead.
Yeah. And then of course she dies. For the first time.
I think it's the first time we see Xander save her life, and that is done a lot in this show. Xander actually saves her life repeatedly on his own. It's very cool. I love seeing that. Yeah. Angel's there too, but
yeah, I mean, I remember watching it for the first time, and it was an interesting twist. That if the prophecy was fulfilled, she died, but she was then resuscitated, obviously, by Xander.
Come on. Come on. Come on. Breathe. Breathe. Come on.
And then that triggered the calling of the new Slayer, which was Kendra, which takes us straight into season 2.
Hi, guys. Miss me?
Season 2, episode 1 was probably one of my favourites, and I'm really big on just character development. I really do. I think it makes a show, and I feel like back then when that show first came out, it just wasn't done very often. There were a lot of shows where the slate was pretty much wiped clean on every episode, especially with a season return. You don't know if she's going to still be dealing with issues and stuff like that. And
she was dealing with issues.
She really did, and I loved that. I love watching her go for it. He said it himself, Giles. He said she has got some serious PTSD from being killed, and so she should. It's a traumatic event for a child to go through, and then to have to just snap back and go back to doing this job where it must be triggering her in some way, knowing, and she starts training like psychotically.
Yes.
Because she wants to be ready. She is so horrified that it's going to happen again. And then to find out that later on in the season, she finds out that they haven't really disposed of his bones as well as they should have. But she makes cracks to Giles, like bad kind of jokes to him about him not being there and not getting her saved and how he could get her killed again. And it's like, I don't know, it's that alone kind of takes the pressure off her a bit, but it puts the pressure back on him and almost in a father figure way, because he is just her watcher, not her father. But that's where the role reversal starts to switch around a bit. It goes really good.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that final scene of that episode where she's crushing his bones into dust. She was taking out all her aggression, everything onto those bones. And very cathartic, and then we see her come back and she's good old Buffy again, which is nice. But so one of my favorite episodes was episode 3, where we first see Spike and his crew come into it. At the school parent-teacher conference. It was a fantastic episode, and from the very beginning, we see Spike is obviously going to be a front and center character, because so much of that episode is centered on him, and it's just hilarious, especially especially the scenes that he has with Buffy's mum, with Joyce.
Love them. I love them. They've got some real good on-screen chemistry. They are awesome together.
Really do. Every scene that they have together, it's hilarious.
You get the hell away from my daughter.
Women!
Yeah.
So that would have to be one of my favourite episodes from season 2.
Yeah.
And obviously then we see Drusilla's character come into it as well, which is a really interesting dark turn for the show.
Miss Edith speaks out of turn. She's a bad example. And we'll have no cakes today.
Darling, are you going to eat something?
I'm not hungry. I miss Prague.
You nearly died in Prague.
But she's, psychotic, obviously, but hilarious as well, in a really dark way. And
and they've got a really cool relationship, they two. Like, obviously, they're twisted and they're completely off their heads and everything, but I love their characters and I really love them together. I love their weird little quirks that they've got with each other. I find it really entertaining to watch them on screen.
It was absolutely hilarious.
Do you like daisies? I plant them, but they always die. Everything I put in the ground withers and dies. Spike, I'm cold.
Got you.
Yeah.
And so then obviously, season 2 focuses pretty much around Buffy and Angel most of the time. And then, he goes bad. He turns into Angelus. So then, I can't really say it's a favourite episode, but, a very traumatic episode in that season was when he killed Jenny Calendar. That was very hard to
Yeah.
to watch. Very sad.
Sorry, Jenny. This is where you get off. I never get tired of doing that.
And then another one of my favourite parts from season 2 is when Joyce finally finds out that Buffy's a vampire slayer.
What is going on? Mom, I'm a vampire slayer.
Those are some more great scenes that we get to see with Spike and Joyce.
Yes.
Like, they are good, yeah. And she's I think they're sitting in the lounge room and she's on the phone at one point and she's looking at him. She said, "I know you," and he's like, "Yeah, the axe." You know, I love that. Like they're just so cute together. Yeah.
Have we met?
You hit me with an axe one time. Remember? Get the hell away from my daughter.
Oh.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
But I really, really enjoy just like I like seeing that from the start, knowing how it's going to end. Like I know what happens, the relationship that evolves between her and Spike. So it is really nice to see that. And like when I was younger, I really, really did root for her to end up with Angel. It was a really big thing for me because I was so in love with David Boreanaz. I was just like, that was it for me. I thought he was absolutely gorgeous. I must say, watching it as I'm older, I don't really get it as much.
No,
they
I
don't
agree.
very long relationship. I understand it from her point of view. This is a 16, 17-year-old girl. So your first love, the first guy you fall in love with, it's going to be, you're going to have that overwhelming emotion. I do kind of get it from his point of view because he has been alone for so long. So he is going to get really, really attached to the first person that, you know, he gets back involved with. So I get that. But I would have probably cared more if I had gotten more of an on-screen relationship out of them. Just a couple of episodes where they were just in a relationship without the drama, because it is constant. I don't think we actually get more than 1 or 2 episodes where they are just in a relationship that isn't being questioned about his age or that he's a vampire or, you know, that she deserves this normal life. It's just, there's a lot of crap. And it's like, even with Spike later on, like when they are together, sorry to jump ahead, but they have that. They have a few episodes here and there where it's kind of a bit calmer, and it's, I don't know, I don't really get it as much as when I was younger. Like I said, your head's kind of in the clouds and you aren't really paying attention to what you're seeing because you just see this vampire fighter and this vampire and you're like, I want them together. But now that I rewatch it, I kind of, I'm like, just go to LA and live your
hurry up and go. The
relationship that he has with Cordelia, mind you, in Angel when he gets there, is amazing. It's beautiful. It has the ground. It's actually got some roots to it. Whereas, her and him, they don't really. I just don't see it as much.
The most dramatic season finales of Buffy, when she has to kill Angel to stop the world from ending. It was incredibly emotional.
I can't.
Willow?
Are you okay?
Te imploro duamne, nu ignora chesta rugamente.
Is this a good thing?
Nici mort, nici alfiente.
Hey,
Lasa
speak
orbita
English.
cari ava transporta suffletul lael.
Willow re-insouls him at the last few minutes before she has to kill him, so they get that final really emotional love scene before she has to...
And one of the things that I really love about that episode, or those final episodes, was the flashback. I think it's one of the first flashbacks to Angel, before all this happened, it shows him getting his soul put back into him back in the day by the gypsies, and it shows that he spent a good 100 years doing nothing. He was literally in the outskirts of society. He was very, you know, very dark and didn't really want to...
Eating rats.
Yeah, eating rats in alleyways, and that was really cool.
God, are you disgusting. This is really an unforgettable smell. This is the stench of death you're giving off here.
And it showed that she actually seeing her and, like, you know, having Whistler, I think his name was, take him and show him this girl that needed his help. That was actually what put life back into him and, you know, made him want to be good. And it's cool to know that her presence, like, without even just her being her, actually is what triggered him to being the man that he is. And I love that.
Yeah, it was. It was quite beautiful, and so it was. It was very emotional, that episode. Like, you know, I still get tears in my eyes when I watch that finale.
Yeah, it's really sad.
Even though he's not dead for long, but
Well, not from her point of view, but if you look at the fact that he's in hell, I think we could round it off to say that he was dead for a couple of 100 years.
Yes.
Very differently in that realm, so...
Yeah, so I guess that brings us straight into season 3.
Yep.
So Buffy has, you know, killed Angel at the end of season 2, and she's run away. She can't handle, you know, everything, and she becomes Anne. And then I think it's at the end of that episode we see Angel come back from hell. He's, you know, the portal opens and he's, you know, appears on the ground naked.
A few episodes later, she because she meets Scott, and so I think I want to say maybe 3 or 4 where she meets Scott and she decides that it's time to move on because Scott tries to give her the ring that Angel once gave her, and she realizes that she can't keep going like this. She is freaking out left, right, and center, and it's time to move on. I'd like to. I don't really remember what actually triggers him to get sent back. I know he has to come back. He's got a role.
I don't think it's ever explained how or what triggered him to come back, but yes, he appears there naked on the ground, and It probably wasn't really here. It might have been a butt double, but
I don't know. If that was a butt double, that was amazing.
It was believable. It looked like his butt.
Not just his butt, but his shoulders, hair, everything. It was all very. It looked very David, like a.
It did.
Yeah.
So for our own imaginations, it was him.
Just let me have this.
It was him.
Yeah. And from the start of that season, you know, the whole season is kind of like revolved around her.
Yeah.
Just dealing with what happened, and that's what, like, it's just, the show just starts to really grow in that season. Like, it really starts to become so, like, more believable. It becomes so much more easier to relate to the characters, and I think that's what made it great in the end, was because they really started to put the drama into it. And I love watching her go through these different, like, aspects of that relationship, because it must be so, like, and she kind of does show that she doesn't really know what to do.
Yeah.
She doesn't tell anybody when he comes back. She keeps it to herself because she doesn't want him to be taken away from her again.
No.
But at the same time, she makes it very clear to him in a lot of ways that she can't just forgive him like that. It gets really good.
Yeah, that's right. So that was one of my favourite episodes, when that finally comes out to the rest of them that Angel is back, and the disappointment, especially from Giles.
What's going on?
We know Angel is alive. Sandra saw you with him.
He was, like, really, really hurt by it, especially because, you know, Angel killed Jenny, and, you know, as Giles says, you know, and he tied me up and he tortured me for days and days for pleasure.
But sadly, I must remind you that Angel tortured me for hours, for pleasure.
Yeah, so it took Giles a long time to forgive her for that.
Yeah, and what I really love about season 3 is it's especially, I think I can't remember the exact episode. Maybe you can. It's when it shows him. He starts getting tormented by the ghosts of his past, which we actually find out is the first.
That's right. Yes.
And the first is actually what the show ends with, which is so cool. It's really, really interesting that they did that.
That was an interesting connection. Yeah.
And just the whole. Most of season 3, it's kind of almost like they really start, but they did it all through the show. The groundwork that they are building these vampires on are taken from Anne Rice's novels, which is so cool. And even that episode where he is being tormented is pretty much straight up taken from the Vampire Chronicles. A lot. And it's really awesome. It's awesome that they used her, because each show that does vampires, they have a certain set of rules depending on what you're watching. They can either go out in the sun or they can't. They can, there's lots of different things like that, and they have really tightly followed Anne Rice's rules for vampires, and that is so cool. They kind of had little storylines in there that really related to those books. It was really good.
At the end of season 2, we see Kendra killed, which triggers the calling of another new Slayer. So then we see Faith introduced to the series in season 3.
You're Buffy, right? Oh, I'm Faith.
I'm gonna go on a limb and say there's a new Slayer in town.
So that was another part of the the series that I liked. Was we had a new Slayer. She looked really cool and interesting to start with, but you could immediately see that there was something very wrong, very, very wrong with her.
Yeah, she's got a few screws loose, and it does show really quickly. There's a fight they're into. I'm not sure if it's the first or her first. I'm pretty sure it might be her first or second episode that she shows up in, where Buffy is like pretty much surrounded, and Faith has one vampire. And she is just repeatedly hitting this vampire, no matter how much Buffy's screaming out for help and to give her a hand. But she's so lost in the fight and just unleashing this aggression that she's got. And it's like, it does show her for the nutball that she ends up being later on.
Absolutely.
Faith, take him already and give me a hand.
Which leads me to another episode that was, confronting, was when her and Buffy killed the deputy mayor.
Faith, no!
It was the first time Buffy had killed somebody that wasn't a demon or a vampire. So it was a very big turning point for Buffy personally. Faith just, shrugged it off and started killing even more. But for Buffy, it was an absolutely horrific thing that she had been a part of.
Yeah, it was life-altering. It really was for her like that,
But and it sent Faith in the opposite direction. It was like, they were, went completely...
Yeah, they hit a crossroads, and she was starting to really follow, before this happened, she was kind of starting to adapt to Faith's way of thinking and way of, handling this job that they had. But once they killed that guy, it was kind of like, do I do what she's doing now and let it go and pretty much pretend it didn't happen and embrace this, evil that's pretty much, brewing inside of you? Or does she go back and try to redeem herself and become good again? What they did was, it was horrible, but
It was terrible. It was terrible.
But she hasn't got as many problems as Faith has got in her head.
But having said that, though, I did love the relationship that Faith ended up having with the mayor.
It was adorable.
He alone was just an absolutely fantastic character. He was so eccentric but evil at the same time. Some of my favourite scenes was him and Faith, and it was a real, he really loved her. He really loved her as his own daughter. And you
And
saw
I think she
that.
was craving a parental kind of influence on herself. Like, she really did. Like, that was really, it was kind of nice. Like, there were scenes where he was, like, getting her weapons and giving her milk and cookies, and there was, like, they were cute scenes. I liked them.
I did too. Even though we know that it will, in the end you're hating on Faith, it was still cute to see these connections, these relationships that were genuine.
Say, are you ever coming out of there?
I don't know.
Oh, come on. Wow. Aren't you a vision?
Yeah, and we talked about this when we were talking about the Buffy reboots and that it's nice not to just have, and I was saying before with Cordelia as the mean girl, it's nice not to show them as one-dimensional characters. There has to be other sides to it. Like, you need to be able to feel something for the good and the bad.
Yeah,
it makes it unrealistic, and for a show that is deeply unrealistic, you kind of need to bring that aspect in so that we can relate to the characters, and they definitely do that in that show.
Yeah. Another one of my favourite episodes was the prom episode.
It's no secret that Sunnydale High isn't really like other high schools. A lot of weird stuff happens here.
Zombies! Hyena people!
Snyder!
Which was towards the end of season 3, and particularly that scene where she's getting the award for class protector, the umbrella.
It's from all of us, and it has written here, Buffy Summers, class protector.
It was so cute, so touching. And you get a little tear in your eye when you're watching it, because it was just such a beautiful recognition of, the fact that Buffy had, kept them all safe and saved all their lives at multiple times. So it was a real beautiful scene, that one.
Yeah. And you do kind of like, it's also kind of nice that they do bring up the fact that they weren't all blindly missing all of these things that were happening around them, because it was constant. Like, you've got like the parent-teacher night, and then with the graduation, all the things that happen. It's nice to know that these people aren't completely brain dead.
Yeah, I love that line that I think Jonathan gives up on the stage where he says, I'm proud to say that the class of whatever it was has the lowest mortality rate of any.
Yeah.
We're proud to say that the class of 99 has the lowest mortality rate of any graduating class in Sunnydale history.
Yeah. Another good episode from season 3 is when Faith actually starts messing around with Angel.
You don't have to do this.
I know, but it's fun. Now relax, it'll all be over soon.
And she makes it kind of acts out as Angel has gone bad, but they are actually playing tricks on her after she's killed this guy to try and bring her in.
It was a very important turning point for Faith's character anyway.
Why, Faith? What's in it for you?
What isn't? I come to Sunnydale. I'm a slayer. I do my job kicking ass better than anyone. But what do I hear about everywhere I go? Buffy.
And really more dark themes, like really, really dark. I don't think she could even really forgive him. And she said too, she kind of said she knew the plan. It was their plan. They concocted it. But it went too far.
Yeah.
And she wasn't happy with the position she was put in. But it was cool watching it play out. I love it when she kind of like clicks the chains off and she's just like, gotcha.
It's a dark scene, and then you can hear it. The whole tempo of the music and everything changes in the episode, and it's like Faith is just like like freaking out, and you can see it. She snaps at that moment. That's it. She's gone.
Yeah,
and she never fully comes back.
Graduation day. You think we missed anything?
I think we know everything she knows.
May I say something? Psych.
You played me. You played me!
Well, on that show.
Not on that show, yeah.
So, that was a very, interesting episode, that one. Very, very, very brutal. Another one I loved was obviously the graduation episode, which, is the part 1 to the 2-part finale. So that was... and at the time, because when we were watching this show, we didn't have the internet or anything. So I remember we actually thought this was it. This was the finish.
Yeah, well, we didn't know they were going to go to college or anything like that.
No, we
like,
thought the series was just going to follow her up until graduation. She solved it, you know, ended on a good note, and that was it.
Yeah, I think pretty much most of our information was coming from things like magazines and American magazines that we'd get sometimes, and we'd be able to see if there was any information on what was coming. But there really wasn't much coming our way. Like there was nowhere for us to go and find out if this show had been renewed or what was happening. So yeah, it was. Yeah, it was scary.
It was scary, but it was the great episodes though. We see the whole school. I love those scenes where the whole school is coming together. They're all training everybody up, and especially that last moment when the mayor ascends and turns into the demon, and then they all take off their robes and they're all weaponed up and they start getting into a really cool scene.
Now! Flame units!
Yeah, no, it's good. And I wouldn't have been happy, obviously. I wanted more of the show, but it was a point where I did think this could be it. Like, she really has gotten through to these people. Like, it could end there and that would be it kind of thing. So I'm happy it kept going, but it was horrifying.
But it was a good episode, especially that last scene where they're walking off. The school is finished, and they say, we did it, guys. We survived high school.
We survived.
It was a hell of a battle.
Not the battle. High school.
So I think that's where we'll leave it today, Kay, for our highlights of seasons 1 to 3. I think in the next episode we should talk about seasons 4 and 5, because that's where things really start to get interesting and juicy and heartbreaking and all of the above.
Yeah. We get some really good scenes too, some really funny ones.
Absolutely. That's our show for today. Thank you for watching, and a big thank you to Miss Kay. You can find the links to her YouTube channel, Gracefullmess, in the description below, and also to her Instagram page and Etsy store. If you enjoyed our show, please like and subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. And we're done.